What's going on, ladies and gents? It is Junk. Welcome to the motherfucking channel. Today we're going to be doing some 2-4 in the blinds, no limit hold'em. And yeah, I'm stoked to see you guys on this video. A lot of effort goes into it, so if you guys want to hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit like so more people see it, that'd be greatly appreciated, and we can go ahead and get into this video.
Starting the session off with pocket sevens in the small blind. We're in a multi-way pot as low jack, cutoff, and button all decide to join the party with a limperoo. I decide to pump up the action with a bet of 10. Surprisingly, all the limpers call and we head to a flop 6, 7, 8 with the clubs draw, landing a beautiful set. With the flush draw out there, I bet 14 and low jack makes the call. Then cutoff decides to raise to 44. With our strong hand, we smooth call, hoping to trap overpairs and flush draws. The turn brings the 2 of diamonds and cutoff goes all in for 144 effective, covering my stack. Without hesitation, we snap it off, confident in our set. The river brings the ace of diamonds, sealing the deal for us. Moving on to an early position hand in UGG, we pick up ace 10 suited and open up with a raise of 10. We're not upset about that kicker. Things get interesting when the player to our left 3-bets to 34. Recognizing the early position aggression, we fold knowing we're likely dominated. UGG 1 will ask if I had ace 10 ace jack, which is dead on the money, telling me he had queens. In the big blind, we find ourselves with king jack offsuit, albeit we're not quite the big blind due to a straddle from UTG. Button small blind limp to 8, and we call, honestly a big move from us. We're supposed to raise this 100% of the time, but in game I was confused since there was a straddle if I should do a calling strategy. Despite the confusion, we see a flop jack 8-6 rainbow, giving us top pair. I lead out with a bet of 16 and everyone folds, securing a nice pot. Jumping back into the action on the button with a king jack offsuit, a familiar hand. We're facing a decision with several players in the pot. UGG 1 and low jack limp, and the hijack fires a bet of 20. Cutoff calls, adding to our pot odds dilemma. While king jack off is a borderline hand here, we decide to fold, especially with a small blind calling as well. The flop comes king 10 king rainbow, giving us a pang for what could have been, but we move on as the action unfolds. Hopefully I can study these spots and be more sure. 15 minutes later, we find ourselves in the hijack with ace-king offsuit. It's a lively table with multiple limpers. We open the action with a raise to 12, and surprisingly, over half the table calls, showcasing the typical action-packed nature of this player pool. The flop brings 5-4 deuce, rainbow, a relatively dry board. We decide to c-bet 20 with our 2 overs and nut ace high. The cutoff calls, and the turn brings a king of hearts, improving our hand to top pair. Despite the heart draw completing, we fire another bet for 36. The cutoff doesn't back down, jamming over top with roughly 140 effective. With top pair and covering their stack, we make the call, revealing top for a satisfying win. In the button seat, we're dealt ace-3 offsuit, definitely at the bottom of our range, but it's still playable. We start with a modest bet of 10, and surprisingly, the small blind, big blind, under the gun 1, low jack, hijack, and cutoff all decide to join the party, creating a family pot minus UGG. The cutoff decides to take initiative with a donk bet of 10, signaling strength. We decide to fold here, recognizing that straight draws are like attempting to finish the anime One Piece. It's so tempting, but completing it feels like an impossible quest. Funny when the boss man comes to talk to me and randomly says this.
Did you buy those or did you double up?
I'm sorry, how's that your business? I'll tell you later. Yeah.
Hopefully it's obvious I'm not trying to be rude and can handle the banter, but I'm playing poker currently and can't disclose the state of my bankroll in a live game. Shifting back to the action, we're now in the big blind with ace-jack of diamonds. UGG 1 and hijack limp in, and the button decides to spice things up with a bet of 19. We commence Operation Calling strategy, flatting the bet and hoping for favorable community cards. The flop reveals jack 8-7, giving us top pair on a rainbow, yet coordinated board. It checks around, keeping the pot modest. The turn brings the ace of spades, improving our hand to 2 pairs, bringing in a flush draw. With a bet of 8, roughly 20% of the pot, we invite action from the button who calls. The river is a queen of spades, completing a potential flush draw. We decide to overbet this river, looking to extract value from opponents with worse kickers. Unfortunately, the button decides to fold. In early position is UGG 1, we're dealt king of 7 of spades. We open the betting with a raise to 12 and low jack calls, setting a stage for the hand. However, when the hijack raises substantially to 48, it's a clear signal that our hand is likely outmatched, closing the case as we let go of this part of our range. Just a few minutes later, we find ourselves in the big blind with a pair of deuces. Despite several limpers from the low jack, hijack, and cutoff, the button decides to make a bold move with a bet of 22. We're the lone caller, taking us to the highly coordinated flop of 9-8-7 with a diamonds draw. The flop connects strongly with our opponent's likely range, leaving us few viable outs. When the button continues with a hefty bet of 46, we wisely fold, recognizing the unfavorable situation. Amidst the chaos of changing tables, we landed in the button with ace-5 of spades. Under the gun, low jack, hijack, limp in, setting a passive tone for the hand. We decide to inject some aggression with a bet of 12, getting calls from the big blind and UGG. The flop 8-10 queen presents a diamond draw, adding complexity to the hand. Surprisingly, it checks around, giving us a free card to the turn. When the ace of spades appears, giving us top pair, we opt for a delayed c-bet of 12, which UGG calls. The river brings the 9 of hearts, potentially improving other hands. Despite our kicker issues, we decide to bet to 8, hoping to extract value. UGG calls and we prepare for a possible loss, but to our delight, UGG mucks, and we scoop the pot with our top pair. Next in the big blind, we're dealt with Jack Deuce off. It's a multi-way limp pot with UGG 1, hijack, cutoff, and small blind just calling. Opting to conceal the overwhelming strength of our hand, we check, hoping to set a massive trap. The flop comes queen 10-8 with a hearts draw, prompting everyone to check around, which keeps the pot small and our hand disguised. On the turn, the king of clubs falls, adding another high card to the board. We check again, maintaining our deception strategy. The river brings the 2 of hearts, completing the flush draw. Now in second position on the river, we make a small bet of 10. This move is somewhat unconventional as we only have bottom pair, but on a serious note, it serves a dual purpose, blocking potential straight and flush draws while also representing strength. Surprisingly, our bet takes down the pot, showcasing the power of well-timed aggression and board texture awareness. Shortly after that hand, we find ourselves in the small blind with a premium hand, kings. UGG limps in and UGG 1 makes a standard bet to 10. It's folded to us and we raise to 30, sizing our raise to build a pot and isolate UGG 1. UGG 1 makes the call, setting the stage for the flop. The flop reveals ace 3-7 rainbow, providing us with a solid second pair. We continue our aggressive play with a c-bet of 20, aiming to capitalize on our strong hand and apply pressure. UGG 1 decides to fold and we take down the pot uncontested, adding to our stack without showdown. In the big line, we're dealt queen 6 of spades. With multiple limpers from the UGG 1 and cutoff, we decide to check our option, keeping the pot small and looking for a favorable flop. The board comes 4-3-8 with a diamond draw, offering us no real connection or attachment to the flop. It checks around to the turn, which brings a 9 of clubs. UGG takes the lead with a bet of 18 and UGG 1 calls. Considering our lack of strong holdings and facing aggression, we wisely fold, letting go of our hand. The river brings a king of spades and the action checks around, ending the hand without any further excitement. Moving to the button, we're dealt king 10 of clubs. UGG 1 and cutoff limp in and it's our turn to act. We decide to inject some aggression and raise to 18, trying to narrow the field and take control of the pot. However, the small blind comes over top with a raise of 36, indicating strength. Given the sudden aggression and our position, we opt to fold, preserving our chips for better spots. A few minutes later, we're in the under the gun position with a much stronger hand, king queen of clubs. We start by betting to 10 and UGG button and small blind all make the call, creating a decent sized pot. We're going to the locked up flop of king queen rainbow, giving us a full house right off the bat. We continue with a bet of 16, aiming to extract value from our strong hand. Surprisingly, all their players fold, indicating they missed the flop entirely, as we block literally all calling hands. I need to double check if this is correct, because anytime someone gets frisky, we get paid. While it's a disappointing result with that action, it showcases the power of a strong starting hand in dictating the pace of the game. In the next orbit, we're under the gun and finding queen jack of hearts. We kick off the action with a modest bet of 10, which is called by UGG 1, low jack in the button. The flop lands with a beautiful queen 10, giving us a set. We fire a continuation bet of 16, enticing the button to continue with the hand. As the turn brings the 8 of spades, we decide to step up the aggression and bet 50, only to face a substantial raise from the button to 150. Without hesitation, we confidently jam an additional 100 on top. The button folds and we scoop the pot. Next in the big blind, we're dealt ace 10 of clubs. The action gets interesting as UGG 1, hijack, and cutoff all limp into the pot. We exercise our option and make it 10 to go, and surprisingly, all the limpers come along for the ride. Flopping air on jack 4-3 with a hearts draw, UGG leads out with a tiny bet of 6, then hijack decides to spice things up with a raise to 20. But wait, the cutoff has other plans and unleashes a hefty 3-bet to 80. At this point, we realize this hand is turning into a real show, so we grab our popcorn and gracefully fold our hand, watching the drama unfold fold from the sidelines. In the button position, we encounter ace-4 off 2 hands later. With limpers from UGG, LoJack, and hijack, we seize the initiative and bet to 10 with all limpers calling. The flop brings ace-10-6 rainbow, giving us top pair. We fire a continuation bet of 24, prompting all opponents to fold, allowing us to claim the pot uncontested. This hand highlights the importance of aggression and position in winning pots without showdowns.
Alright guys, I had to interject here and say that I said chips instead of dollars a lot. These are $2 chips, not $1 chips. So please understand, the script gets pretty confusing. So yeah.
In the big blind, we're dealt 10-9 off, a very connected and playable hand. The action unfolds with UGG 1, LoJack cutoff, and button all limping into the pot. We decided to check our options, seeing a flop of ace-10 queen, rainbow. Following our GTO lord, we lead out with a bet of 10 chips. UGG 1 calls, indicating some strength. However, as the turn reveals jack of hearts and checks through, our hand loses momentum. The river brings the 7 of spades, completing the board with no significant improvement for us. It's checked through and we realize that our second pair story isn't holding up against likely stronger hands. UGG takes down the pot with ace-8 off. Later in the cutoff position, we're dealt ace-queen off with the UGG straddle to 8 chips. UGG and LoJack limp in, prompting us to raise to 24 chips, asserting control and value with our strong hand. The small blind, big blind, UGG, and LoJack all call, leading to a flop 5-5-7 on a rainbow board. In a slight lapse of judgment, we bet 28 chips with our 2 overs, which may have not been the optimal play given the board texture. Small blind and big blind call, but LoJack throws a curveball by jamming 420 chips over top. Pretty easy to get out of the way, and we're just sitting on our hands waiting to be made when that overbet flop jam occurs again. Recognizing the strength of this move and the potential for a dominant hand, we fold without hesitation, preserving our stack for better opportunities. Back in the big blind, we hold ace-5 of clubs as the UGG, LoJack, cutoff, and button all limp in. We decide to bet to 14 chips, applying pressure and testing the waters. Everyone except LoJack calls, leading us to a flop jack 9-8 with a hearts draw that doesn't favor our hand. When UGG bets to 28 chips, indicating strength or a strong draw, we make a disciplined fold, recognizing that our hand lacks significant potential against a probable stronger ranger from the UGG. It's crucial to know when to fold and conserve chips, especially in marginal situations like this one. In the small blind in the next hand, we're dealt king queen off and we're faced with a limp pot where UGG 1, hijack, cutoff, and button all enter the fray. We decide to assert certain control and value bet to 14 chips, attempting to narrow the field and gain information about our opponent's hands. Surprisingly, LoJack, hijack, cutoff, and button all call. We see another jack high flop on jack 9 deuce on a rainbow board with no immediate threats. Despite not hitting the flop hard, we bet 20 chips, which in hindsight might not have been the best decision given our hand strength, limited outs, and the risk of facing stronger hands. However, LoJack throws a curveball by jamming his stack of 80 chips into the pot, indicating strength and putting pressure onto the rest of the table. Hijack calls, and faced with this aggressive action, we make the disciplined fold, preserving our chips for better spots.